welcome back to the Land Rover Toolbox videos. You can see very clearly here that I've got leaks. Well, it's a Land Rover, it's going to leak. By the appearance of this, it's clear oil and not black, so the gearbox is leaking, and I think it's leaking out of the input shaft. It's dripping down and also dripping backwards. As it's been driven along, the oil's been pushed down the bell housing. Now, this is common with Land Rovers. There's plenty of tools. Unfortunately, we don't get to get many of these tools, and there's plenty of different types of seals that are available. So in this video, I'm going to tell you a little bit about seals, what to watch out for, and which way they're fitted around, because there is a difference. So anyway, the reasons for lipped seal failures, and there's not many of them. The first one is a breather blocked. What happens here, if the breather is blocked for the unit, it pressurizes it and then pushes the oil through the weakest point, which is usually the seal. The second one is a shaft oscillation, which will distort the seal and let the oil pour through it. This is not so common, but if it is, it's because the bearing's either worn or you have an issue with the flange, for instance, being loose. And the third one here will be a poorly fitted or damaged seal installed, and this is very, very common. Sometimes they're put in on the piss and they don't work. And finally, number 4, damaged or worn components. That goes without saying. If you don't check things before you put a seal in, it could leak. Right, so what we have here is a breather system on the rear axle. Come on guys, you know all about the breathers. You should always check them to make sure they're clear. Otherwise, you'll have a seal leak. And especially around here, this is a damp, and I think this is more to do with wear than a block seal. And it's not leaking specifically bad. For checking for oscillation or a loose flange, for instance, or even worn bearings, there would be a lot of play in the prop shaft, for instance, on the rear axle. It gets worse, of course. Things like hub seals. I think I've shown you this a dozen times because I found this, and I found this, the seal was the wrong way round. It blew out the grease, and well, on closer inspection, the stub axle was actually worn up. So I think the owner tried to fit another seal. You can see this is quite severely worn. This is a worn component, which initially caused a leak, and then they fitted the seal the wrong way around, which made it leak even worse. So, you know, these are real life situations here. I do find it on occasion, and we've got to be very aware of what we're doing. Otherwise, it could be disastrous, especially if grease gets on brakes. Okay, so I have a diff pinion seal here. Well, yes, it is loose because I didn't film it when I took it out. So I'll show you the seal removing tool. It's just 90 degree with a hook on it, and you basically pull it out like so. Sometimes it can be a struggle, sometimes they're easy. This is a lip seal, and it's for a crankshaft, 2.5 NAD. When you're checking seals, basically always check the cord's in place. The cord is the side where the oil is. It holds the lip onto the shaft, for instance. Now, before you install a seal, you always check the lip to make sure it's not damaged or kinked. Make sure the item is straight. If it's not, then chuck it away. This is an interesting seal, and this is the Salisbury seal. And basically, this is a pinion seal, and it's very specially made. This is towards the oil side, so it basically goes in that way, and it's quite interesting because you do need a specialist tool to put this in properly without it distorting, because it's an odd shape. And you'll see here that the other part where the flange goes on, this stops the crap getting into it. When you get a flange kit, for instance, like you would from Brookwell's for the Salisbury axle, you'll get a better seal which you can install because it has a flat face. However, it also has a cone on the outside, which is to stop the shit getting in or close to the seal. Okay, and you can see just again that these are very, very similar. You'll find a lot of aftermarket stuff is made easier for you to fit things. Okay, so I have a couple of well, actually I've got loads of hub seals here, and I'm going to show you the difference between a cheap seal and an OEM or Land Rover seal. Basically, this has a part number to it. It has the Land Rover part number to it as well, which we'll get up there as FTC 4785, I think you'll find it is. And this is the genuine McCoy, and you'll always find numbers on seals. They'll also denote sizes as well if they are non-specific. Okay, Land Rover seal has a double ridge seal, and this is a very effective seal. And it also has the outer dust seal as well on it incorporated. A cheaper one from Carson's is not the same. It also hasn't got ridges on it for sealing when you put it into the hub. This is a much cheaper design. You only have one lip on here, and then the outer seal as well, which it's not a good quality seal. I would say no, I wouldn't fit it. I'd chuck it away. Go to Land Rover and buy a decent seal, or get your parts supplier to supply you genuine Land Rover parts. What can happen sometimes, and these are very cheap crap seals, and I'm not telling you where I bought it from. It's not a blue bag one. However, the thing is damaged. This came out of the packet like this. Not very good. Never ever fit a seal like this, because it will, well, it won't even fail. It just won't work from the beginning. Okay, you can see that that's distorted, and also the lip is out of the way, and that's where the oil would leak from. So you can see that is not at all round. Believe me, some people might be able to try to fit them. Right, so the seal, very good quality one here. And what I'm going to show you about the flange, or where the seal runs. Obviously you don't want grooves, pitting or rust, but also check the bevel on the end here, because this itself, if it's got a burr on it, it can cut the lip on your seal. These are actually quite delicate. And see, there's a point of contact which is going to make the seal, and don't forget the shaft is rotating, will rotate quite a lot for thousands and thousands of revolutions. Okay, so look, you see, as you push the seal on, it actually gives you a tight fit. However, if it's on the piss, if it's been fitted like this, obviously it's exaggerated, it will not work. It has to be straight. So you really do need a good fitting tool, but we don't usually get that. Okay, so this seal will help the dirt from getting anywhere near the lip seal, because if you get grit in there, it will catch on the lip, and that will damage the lip, get caught onto the land of where it runs on, and will cause a leak as well. Believe it or not, using good quality oils and making sure your breathers are clear all the time will extend the life. However, these will not last forever. The lip seals need lubrication on them, and if you find seals with lubrication on them, make sure you keep them in the packet until you're going to use them. They are generally lubricated with the fluid that you are keeping in the unit that you're fitting it to. Cheaper seals, well, maybe dry, so what you will do, for instance, is wipe a little bit of EP90, if it's a diff seal, on the lip for when you're fitting it, and then that will make sure that it doesn't rip when it first turns, when you first start to use the vehicle. And anything like this sort of dirt, swarf, anything like that on it will make the seal fail, so make sure it's perfectly clean before you fit it. Okay, the other thing I'd say is never hang them on a hook on the lip. Right, so these seals, they're wet fit seals, or you lubricate the lips when you fit them. These ones have to always come in cheaper not head gasket sets, but bottom end gasket sets. I personally don't like them very much. I prefer these, which are dry fit seals. These are Teflon seals. You'll recognise them, the 200 and 300 TDI seal. Now, they have a fitting tool with them because they're quite awkward to fit. You need to use this tool. Now, this is the correct tool for fitting the Teflon seal. Fits on the end of the crank, and then you push the seal on and into the housing. However, the white piece of plastic is actually that tool, so you don't have a problem with it. And I'm pretty sure I made a video on how to fit these a little while back. 200 and 300 TDI, they always go on dry. And I think the TD5 also has one with a housing with it. So this tool basically goes, this is from the crank. You then push it on with your tool, and that will squeeze the seal up and it will slip onto the crankshaft. The seal is different because it has a very delicate edge, and always keep this with the tool and hold it in a bag until you're ready to use it. You do not use oil with this to lubricate it at all. It goes in dry. So yeah, basically you're quite lucky there because you have the fitting tool for it. This one is about £120 if you want to buy it, unless you can find it on eBay. Okay, so you can see the groove there that fits on the end of the crank, and there's the groove there, it does the same job. Okay, so I have a specific tool, and this is a driver with a face for installing a specific seal. Okay, now this is for the naturally aspirated, which used to also go in freight rovers as well. The seal fits on the driver like so, but it's also stepped because this seal doesn't go in flush. It actually goes in a little way. There's a cutout groove there, so I can drive the seal to the right depth. Now this is important because the hub seal on the Discovery and the Defender goes to the depth, or is driven to the depth of 4 millimeters below the edge of the hub. Okay, now the specialist tool will be similar, and specialist tool seen here. You don't see all the details here. It hasn't got the information. LST137. Now the seal, or the hub seal, FTC 4785, I think that one is. It has an outer lip on it. This is the dust lip. Okay, it stops crap getting into the seal and it works better. Okay, now I'll just show you this on the stub axle. It has to be driven to a depth of 4 millimeters into the hub to accommodate for that, so it doesn't get damaged when the hub's turning. So basically what we do, because we don't have the right tools, for instance, I'll use a bearing race there and then knock it down just below the surface about 4 millimeters, like so. So you can see that that is how it's supposed to be done. This is how we have to get away with things. Now, I'm pretty sure that all of you have seal and bearing race drivers. Okay, now this one is just about for the right size, and you could probably push that below the surface. Okay, it's not really that good if it's flush with the casing, for instance, the surface of a casing. So you want an edge on it just a bit wider than the seal, so it doesn't go any deeper and go on the piss. Now, however, this, you do not want to use this sort of driver or seal driver with it, because it will just damage it and it will make it useless. There is a reason for that being there. You possibly could find a tool or something that has a chamfer like this. This will help it, and it will make sure it's not damaged. And this is a little bit too big for the seal itself. So what we'd probably prefer to do is find a tool or something like a tube which will fit the flat part of the seal so we can drive it in square. Now that's acceptable, that's flat, and it's not going to damage anything. You could use a socket, for instance. This happens to be a 52mm socket, which you can buy almost anywhere quite cheap. However, it doesn't quite fit because it's, well, it just doesn't quite fit. So what I do is use a little bit of Vaseline on it. Okay, now you have the ridges, which is going to make it just a little bit awkward to fit in, but it'll be a nice grip. Now I use lubrication, Vaseline, liberally applied, so it's not going to be knocked in dry, so the lip will slip and move about, which is okay. Okay, I can get that in without a problem. Now generally you're gonna, with a socket, you're gonna use something like an old extension, not something you've just recently bought, and then knock it in. You need to get it square. Now this is not square, you can see that. I'm quite disappointed. I can feel that the seal is not going in properly. Okay, so I'm going to take a bit of drastic action and hit the top of the socket. I don't like doing this, and that should square it up, and it's still not there. I need to get it deeper in, so I'm going to get a little bit more Vaseline on this. This is starting to dry out, and then drive it below the face of the nose cone. This is not ideal. It's much better on the vehicle than on the bench because the diff is moving about, but This sort of thing you have to feel, or you could measure it to see if you've got the depth right, but that is okay. I hope this has helped some of you understand about lip seals. There is an infinitesimal amount of information that you could glean, and it's all about experience and working through things.